Good morning, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope you're having a fantastic day. On today's episode of The Things You Missed in Elden Ring, we're continuing through the Consecrated Snowfields and moving into part 2. I meet you now right by the portal in the northeast, where the big doggy beat us up in the last video. We're going to be jumping through that portal in just a second. However, before that, slightly off to the southwest, you can start to make your way up all these rocks here. And at the very top, just around the other side of this headstone, you'll find yourself a Somber Smithing Stone 8. Now we're going to hop back down and I'm going to much more successfully take out all the wolves this time. Then we'll teleport through the portal, and as I'll show you in the map in just a second once I've taken out these scarabs, we've just teleported slightly further north across the other side of the frozen lake to the foot of the minor Erd tree. There's a few fairly weak enemies around that you can take out along with some very minor items. And once you're done there, come round to the north side of the Erd tree and you'll be faced with a Putrid avatar. Me and my mimic tier were absolutely wrecking him. This was going so well. And I got crazy greedy and his Scarlet Rot just demolished me. So we'll respawn and try that again. We're getting into some crazy big numbers here now for runes. Once you defeat him, you will get 160,000 runes along with the Thorny Cracked tier and the Ruptured Crystal tier. Now let's move into the second tip. Now we're going to head slightly to the southwest, and on top of a few of these rock formations you'll see some scarabs that we're going to take out. Whilst we're dealing with them to collect the somber smithing stones that they have to offer us, I'd just like to say thank you so much for being here, and if you enjoy the content and would like to see more, then please give the video a like and also consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you. Now that we've taken them both out and got the somber smithing stones 7 and 8, head slightly northeast on top of the giant rock formation here, and the invisible one will be right here. And once you deal with him, you'll get a Somber Smithing Stone 9. Now I'm going to take out these Albinorics so that I can safely grab the Dragon Wound Grease down here. And the next thing we're going to do is head to the southwest to this giant tree off in the distance, where we can grab a Smithing Stone 8. Just be very careful for the wolves and the archer enemies around here. And once you've done that, a little bit further south still, you'll see a load of wolves chasing a crystal scarab. And I'd like to pretend that this was just pure skill on my part. But I have a bad habit of being way too brutally honest. So yeah, this was pure luck that I managed to take out this invisible scarab first time. And once you do take it out, you'll get the Ash of War White Shadows lore. And it's essentially just a taunt. I really don't think it's worth using. The fact that you get it so late on in the game is very, very bizarre and very confusing to me. And then the final thing I'm going to show you for this segment of the video, head even further south still, and in just a few seconds you'll be invaded, I believe, for the third and final time. Or is it even fourth now? You get invaded by her a lot. Anyway, you'll be invaded by Anastasia, Tarnished-Eater. And once you defeat her, you will get a somber ancient dragon smithing stone. So incredibly worth doing this invasion. Awesome reward. Now let's move into the next part of the video. The next thing we're going to do is cross the frozen lake and go all the way down to the southwest to these ruins that I've marked on the map down here. On the way there though, just at the top of the hill behind where you just fought Anastasia, you can grab a stone sword key off the corpse here. Just be careful because there are a few enemies around along with 2 of them stupid zappy lightning balls. And then on the way to these ruins, be careful of the giant spectral dragonkin that are going to spawn out of nowhere and absolutely mess me up. When I do make it to the ruins successfully the second time, I decide to turn around and give one of them a piece of my mind, and they don't have much health. That was surprisingly easy. And now that we're here, these ruins are probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, in the game. Because every single enemy here causes madness. There's loads of rats. All the hollow soldier dudes can spam frenzied spells at you. And then you've got the massive giants around as well that also use some really far-reaching, really powerful spells. So all in all, it's a very tricky ruin to deal with. So be very careful. I'm going to spend a lot of time clearing up all the enemies so that I can show you the items a little bit easier. There's many Eyes of Yelough and many yellow embers you can pick up if you are using them for item crafting. And then in the little room full of rats here, you can get a stone sword key. Once you've got all the crafting materials that you want and you've cleared out the ruins, come back to the central ruin with the giant that was asleep, and you can jump off the edge here on your horse over into this other structure, which is where you'll find the basement. That will lead us to the main item for these ruins, which is the unendurable frenzy spell. Once you've grabbed everything that you want from here, head towards the cave right down the south, and we'll go down the lift. Somehow, I managed to completely walk past the Site of Grace. Only now that I'm watching it back, have I realised that the Site of Grace was at the bottom of the lift. I literally do not touch that the entire time that we're here. So make sure you do, because you're going to make things a little bit easier for yourself. So now we'll start going through the Yelough Anix tunnel together. Straight away you'll see this door doesn't open, so I'll have to go back on ourselves and hop down the ledges here. Be careful for the crystal miners, and you can also grab some freezing grease straight away. You'll have to be really eagle-eyed for all the smithing stones in this area. Because this whole cave is frozen over, they blend into the walls very well. In this next room, once I've dealt with the miners, we can then grab this golden rune 10 and hop over to the other side. There's another one to deal with in the next room, along with 6 explosive stone clumps that you can loot. Now we'll go up the ladder and deal with these miners, and this is where I'm already starting to miss smithing stones. There was one on that floor, and there was even a note right in front of it, and I somehow completely missed it. So do pay really close attention, because there is a lot of incredibly high level smithing materials in this dungeon that you really want to grab. Now that we're at the top of these ladders and through the tunnel, another Alabaster Lord will spawn in, and once he's been taken out, you can also get yourself the Hero's Rune 5. And this is where I'm finally starting to realise there's lots of stones around. And I'm going to grab a Somber Smithing Stone 9, an 8, and a regular Smithing Stone 8 as well. This is where we can now open the door, which will act as a shortcut back to the entrance, along with getting the Smithing Stone 8 that's right next to it. Now, for the boss, we're going to be faced with a super-powered version of Astil, but with lots of gravity bolt spamming, along with my Mimic Tear Ashes plus 10, he doesn't stand much of a chance against us. And then we're rewarded with the Meteorite of Astil. Before we leave, however, there's one more route I didn't show you. So we're going to drop back down again, and then in this next room, we can drop down even further still. Down here is some more smithing stones that you can loot, and you'll see there's an epic item just off to the right of these miners. So once you've taken them out, you can go and grab the rune arc. And finally, before we leave, come to the other end of the room, there will be another Alabaster Lord to take out, and then you can loot yourself an ancient dragon smithing stone. And also, he dropped his sword for me. Now we are done here, so I'm going to teleport myself back to the inner consecrated snowfield, and I'll meet you there. Now we're going to head directly west to where I've just placed these beacons on the map. As you get close to the giant tree, you can grab yourself a Smithing Stone 8, and there's also a ton of rhymed crystal buds to loot around here should you need them. And then before long, as we're heading closer to the tree, you'll be invaded by the Sanguine Noble. I'm sure if I wasn't cheesing him with gravity bolts, he would have been much harder than he was. In all honesty, bloody dragonflies were harder than the Sanguine Noble was, because they kept distracting me and getting in the way and disrupting my attacks. Nerf dragonflies, please, FromSoft. They are bullshit. Once he's been defeated, you'll get yourself a poxy amount of runes, but more importantly, the Sanguine Noble armor set, which looks so damn cool. Now he's dead, and I've been able to kill the bloody dragonfly. Head slightly northeast, and you can grab some crystal darts where these dogs are. And then down here, off to the southwest, you'll see a portal. This takes you to Mohgwyn Palace, more specifically, very close to the Palace Approach Ledge Road Site of Grace. And you may recognize this area. This is an area people love to use to farm runes. Obviously, you can get here much earlier on in the game. I'm talking like whilst you're still in Limgrave. All you need to do is just blitz through Various questline. But basically, you see that giant crow down there? If you just aggro it by like shooting an arrow at it, 9 times out of 10 it will just yeet itself off the cliff and you'll get a load of free runes. So if you're a bit underleveled and need a nice rune farm, that's a great way to do it. Now I'm going to head back to the consecrated snowfield, and I'll meet you by the big tree again. As we're getting closer, I'm just going to stop to admire the attacks of this walking mausoleum off in the distance. That is an awe-inspiring and terrifying sight to behold, and we will be having a lot of fun trying to get past that in just a few minutes. Before then though, you'll see there's a statue here that needs smashing. So we need to go back and aggro a rune bear and get him to come with us so he can break the statue for us. Come back up from that statue, and as you're facing south, you'll see a rune bear asleep just here. Wake him up and get him to come with you by doing a bit of damage to him. Be careful not to die, and as you're leading him down to the statue so he can smash it up for you, again, preferably keep yourself alive, then I'm going to sprint in grab the 3 Smithing Stone 7 and also the Smithing Stone 8 and get the hell out of here, because rune bears this late on in the game are very, very, very powerful. And now to wrap up this part of the video, I'll show you a brief glimpse of one of my many deaths to this walking mausoleum that we're now going to try and traverse. Okay, you know how these guys work by now, so we'll skip through most of this as I get close enough to him and start chipping away at the growths on his feet. And now that we've done that, you have access to yet another duplicate remembrance from one of the many remembrances you'll have by now. And just so you know, you don't have to have kept them to be able to duplicate them. If you've already used them, it's fine, they'll still appear in this list. So now we'll start heading north for the final part of the video. I meet you now at the Apostate Derelict, and just here you can loot the silver mirror shield. In this structure, you'll also come across this giant Albinauric woman. Her only purpose is to serve as the ending to Latenna's questline. As I haven't been doing that in this playthrough, she's useless to me, but just so that you know, if you have been doing Latenna's questline, which is a very simple one with incredibly few steps, you are able to summon her here, and doing so will reward you with another somber ancient dragon smithing stone. So incredibly worth doing, if just for that reward. I'm now just going to take a very quick look at the silver mirror shield that we picked up. Looks really cool, but there's nothing particularly awesome about it, apart from the fact that it has crazy high magic damage resist, so it's actually really good at blocking spells. And finally, for this video, we're going to head to the east and grab another Somber Smithing Stone 9 from the corpse on this chair here. Then at the bottom of the mountain, once you've dealt with the land squirts, you can grab yourself a golden rune 13. And that's all I have for you in this one. I'll be taking you through the rest of the snowfields in the final part, including a full step-by-step guide on the big town in the north of the snowfields, Ordina. For now, all I have left to say is I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.